So yeah, super pumped to start getting this content out for you guys. So check that out in my Patreon link down below. But let's get right into it tonight. Heading over here to DraftKings, just want to take a quick look at the game environment for tomorrow night. So first game we can see we have the Magic and Cavs. Right now it's a 4.5 point spread, 225 game total. Grizzlies Pistons 1 point spread, 218.5. Sixers Wizards 9.5 point spread, 239. So looking like a really, really good game total there. Obviously, we really want to target the Wizards because they're absolutely garbage, but obviously some blowout risk. Nets Hawks, another great one there, 241. Spurs Timberwolves, obviously, high blowout risk there, 12 point spread, 226.5. Raptors Heat, 3 point spread, 218. 4.5 for the Bulls and Hornets, 220. That could be a sneaky one there, even though the Bulls play pretty slow, usually solid defensively, and the Hornets are pretty bad. So I think it could be one of those sneaky ones where it actually turns into a high scoring, solid game, but we'll have to see. The Bulls are god awful. Thunder Rockets, 2.5 point spread, 226.5. Jazz Mavs, 227.5, 9 point spread. Blazers Warriors, 224.5, 12.5 point spread. And then Nuggets Clippers right now, 224.5, 1 point spread. So hopping into this first game here, we have Orlando versus Cleveland. On the Orlando side here, obviously, Wendell Carter is obviously still out for a little bit. Same thing with Markel Fultz, and Jonathan Isaac is questionable. We'll see if he's good to go. If he's good to go, and there's no kind of minutes limit right now due to that ankle sprain, should be in line to see anywhere from like 12 to 20 minutes. I think it'd be an okay play. I don't love him at that price tag on 11 game slate. There should be better value. But Paulo, Franz, they're both fine if you want to get to them. I don't think there's a need to force any Magic players onto your team right now. Cole Anthony's been seeing pretty good minutes, but 6.8K, not getting him at a discount. I think he's a fine GPP play. Suggs 6.1K, he's kind of there for me. Does have a little bit of upside. It's just he's not taking a lot of shots, so kind of limited in terms of offensively. Goga Mo, we're going to split the center minutes. You can get those random big games from Goga, but it's really hard to kind of prioritize anyone on the Magic side as of right now. They're just all kind of just more so contrarian GPP options. I mean, no one's really any value options down here. Joe Ingles is 4.2K. Gary Harris is 4.2K as well. So it's like not getting discounts on anyone on the Magic side, and they're all kind of priced about right. Moving on in Cleveland here, I still think it's a great price tag for Donovan Mitchell. Didn't have the best game there against Detroit, but even with a full healthy team now, Donovan Mitchell still has upside. He is the main dog, so he's always going to be a solid GPP contrarian option. Mobley's too pricey for me at 7.9K. I just don't think there's a need to get to him at that price tag. Better options across the board. Garland, okay contrarian option. Don't love it. Allen is probably my favorite of the bunch besides Donovan Mitchell, just because he's had pretty solid upside. Seen solid minutes as well, mid 30s minutes when it is a close game. He's not in foul trouble. Has a double double upside. He can get a few blocks as well. So I don't mind him at 6.7 if you're going to try to force someone in. Struce with everyone back, he should play you solid minutes. It really just comes down to can he hit his shots if he can. Sure, he does have a little bit of a ceiling, but I don't mind him there. Um, you know, he's kind of there for me. I'd say he's probably second favorite, tied with Allen, and then I still think Donovan Mitchell would probably be my favorite play on this Cavs side. Obviously, Nova Levert means just more minutes for the starters. A guy like Isaac Okoro should see decent minutes off the bench. I'd slot him in for probably 20, maybe a little bit more. I guess he'd be an okay value. Niang will see minutes off the bench as well. Should see around 20. He's a solid value, 4,000. Once again, I still don't think there's a need to get down to those two value plays, but they're definitely there. So for Memphis, we know they're kind of running some weird lineups right now. Obviously, they're very low on guards. Smart and Luke Kennard are out right now, and they don't really have a true point guard. So we did see them put in some Gilliard for a few games. Wasn't really working out. D Rose has kind of assumed the starting point guard role a few times here, and he's actually been pretty solid. 5.1K, not getting him at a price tag that you kind of like, even in a good matchup. So I think right now the best play in terms of a guard would be probably Jalen Noel here. I mean, he's sitting really, really solid minutes since they signed him 13, 18, 26, and 34. Now, obviously, you could make the argument there's some blowout run. He's been super aggressive in those games. But yeah, I don't mind taking a shot on him here. If he's going to be super, super aggressive, he's going to see solid minutes. The Memphis Grizzlies have been pretty bad. Detroit's been pretty bad. So it could be one of those scenarios where you do take a punt play on Jalen Noel here. So I don't mind going to that. You never know. But yeah, this could be one of those situations where we take a shot on Jalen Noel and he does really good. So I'd say that's the best option in terms of guards, but more so, I think the only other two people that really stand out right now would be Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson Jr. Santi's okay. With Tillman back, don't really need to get to Biombo or Tillman right now just because they're splitting center minutes. And then, Roddy is kind of there. He's playing solid minutes, been aggressive recently, but yeah, not a lot to like there for the Memphis side besides the main kind of stars and maybe taking a shot on Jalen Noel, depending on his ownership. For Detroit here, I think Cade's finally priced about right. Duran, I actually really like him here, 6.6K. Still has a really, really high ceiling. He really has been coming in at pretty low ownership since he kind of hurt his ankle injury, kind of a few weeks back and has kind of been slowly getting back into it. But still, if he stays out of foul trouble, he should be in line to see 30 plus minutes. And I really like him here at 6.6K. So, going to be one of those kind of, not a core play right now, but more so kind of a wait and see play. Sar Thompson's dropped down to 6,000. I think this is a very appealing price tag. Only played 13 minutes at 16 because he's in massive foul trouble. That's really the only downside with him, besides kind of his poor shooting at times, is just the massive foul trouble. So if you stay out of it, we know the ceiling is very, very high for him. A guy that can absolutely stuff the stat sheet. So good amount of interest in Asar right now at 6,000. Ivy's been massive chalk. He's finally been, absolutely, for that one game there, he did bail out the fish, went for 37 there, almost, a quiet triple double. And then, was even more chalk the past few slates. Finally, did not bail out the fish. And he had some pretty bad games there. Obviously, very, very foul prone. So that does hurt a little bit, but still, yeah, I think he's an okay play. Hayes is starting to be in a little bit more run once again. So as I mentioned with these guards, besides Kate Cunningham, I know foul trouble is playing into it, but Ivy, Hayes, Sasser, Burks, the rotation's been very weird for them in terms of the minutes. Like some games they're not getting any runs, some games they are. They're a very bad team. They can't keep games close. They'll sit the starters. It's just they're all over the place with the guards. That's why I don't really love landing on any of them, just because even though they come in solid price tags, it's just very hard to kind of know what's going to happen with that. It's very risky. Isaiah Stewart should see about 30-ish minutes. I think he's a fine play at 5.3. Bogdan is also back as well, so that does hurt the small forward and guards. He saw 27 minutes, so if he's not going to be in a minutes limit, I really like him here at 5.1K. One of those guys who should be super, super aggressive. So I do have an interest in him. In terms of rankings, I'd say he's probably the best play right now, followed by Duran and followed by Thompson. And as I think they could slot Thompson into, the shooting guard spot, possibly knock out one of those guards out of the starting lineup. Really depends. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the pecking order is going to be Bogdan, Duran, Thompson, and then maybe getting to Cade. Don't really have an interest in any of these other guys for Detroit. Moving on to Philly here versus Washington. Obviously, fantastic matchup here. It just really depends. Can this game stay close? If it can, absolutely love the upside here for Embiid. No one's going to be able to guard him. Maxey is also a very, very strong play there. Tobias, a little bit too pricey for me, but he's also a very strong option. But with, Oubre back, that really knocks down a guy like Melton and Tobias. I still expect Maxey and Embiid to run everything. So, yeah, I think right now, really the only interest for me is going to be Embiid and Maxey for this fantastic matchup, and maybe a little bit of Kelly Oubre if there's not going to be minutes limit. Other than that, no real interest in this team here. Everyone's kind of priced about right. We know their offense is coming from. For Washington here, if your game's going to stay close, it's going to be because of Kuzma. I mean, he's kind of been their main guy, keeping games close because he's doing well. Poole's been a little bit better recently, but it's still very up and down. I don't mind taking a shot on him as a solid contrarian GPP option, but expect to get burned if you do go there. Denny, decent mid-range play. Does have some upside. Trey Jones, it's just you never know what game you're going to get from Trey Jones. One where he's aggressive or one where he's not aggressive and goes for like 10 fantasy points. All over the board, I still think he's an okay option. Gafford, he's going to be super contrarian. Does have an upside, as you can see, against Orlando, but he's going against Embiid. Very, very foul prone. So I don't love that matchup there. Only other guy I'd probably take a shot on would maybe be Gallinari here. 3.8K, aggressive when he's out there. Can grab rebounds as well. Maybe they need his size going against Washington, against Philadelphia. You never know. Moving on to Miami versus Toronto here. Right now, Bam is still out, as well as Tyler Hero. As we know that. So I like Jimmy, 9.5K. He really stepped up the past few games there. Past two going for 30 or more fantasy points. Duncan's 6.3, more so of a contrarian option there. Same with Jaime, 6.1. Finally, he's priced up to about where he should be. So no real standouts for me in terms of this team. Lowry, minutes have been better recently, been a little bit more aggressive. So sure, he's screwed me every time I played him, but he's still an option. Caleb Martin's gotten priced up because his minutes have gone up because of injuries. Same thing with Josh Richardson. So no one really stands out to me right now for this Miami side because they're all just way too pricey to get to. Maybe taking a shot on Bryant's, but as you can see, even in the starts, he hasn't been getting a ton of run. Kevin Love's minutes have gone up a little bit more, so maybe taking a shot on Kevin Love, but not a lot like in terms of price points for Miami. For the Toronto side, still think it's a very interesting price here on Scotty Barnes. I know it feels a lot to pay for Barnes 9K, but we know the upside there with Barnes. Siakam more so the contrarian option off of Barnes. Um, I don't know if it's going to load. Schroeder there, 6.7K. I think it's a fine play. Nothing really stands out to me there. Portal could be one of those games where Miami goes small. Portal's minutes get limited. So, yeah, not much in terms of this, Toronto Raptors team that stands out to me. You got Gary Trent, very score independent off the bench, but still seeing solid minutes. But really going to be the main two guys at the top for me, and that's it. Moving on to Brooklyn here in Atlanta. Great game environment here. Bridges is priced up to 7.6 or 8.6, excuse me, coming off that massive 42 point game. So I still think it's a solid option if you do want to get to him. Dinwiddie a little bit too pricey for me, but should be aggressive, should see solid minutes, and he has a very good upside, as you can see, kind of being the main two scorers for this team right now. Cam Thomas is back as well. So I don't mind getting him. He's very score independent, but he's going to go out there and absolutely chuck. So 7.1K for him. Probably be my favorite right now for the Brooklyn side in this matchup. Still really like Claxton here. The minutes have been a little bit wonky. It's just hard to trust, but as you can see, has massive upside if he can just stay out there, not be in foul trouble, and actually get the minutes. So do have a good amount of interest in him there at 6.8. I'll also throw in Cam Thomas at 7.1. Johnson's there is a fine play. 6.5 is more so of a contrarian option. Off of, some of these guys should be a decent chalk, but nothing too crazy. And that's really it for the Brooklyn side. For Atlanta side, Trae Young, 10.3K, more so of a contrarian spin up option. Has had two big games in a row. Murray, just more so of a pivot play off of, Tyus. Trae Young, Bogdan, 6.2K, just kind of there for me. Capella, obviously going to split the center minutes with the Kongwu. Price points don't really stick out to me. Hunter, Bay are kind of there, 5.6, 5.7, and not really much, value off the bench as of right now. So really right now for me on the Atlanta side, it'd really just be getting to maybe DeJounte Murray, maybe a little bit Bogdan, but that's really it. Moving on to San Antonio versus Minnesota here. For the Spurs side here, Victor's price about right. It really depends on Collins and Vassell. Vassell should be good to go. He's probable right now, and same thing for Collins. So they both should be good to go. I think those two would be my favorite in terms of their price tags and their upside. Vassell's minutes haven't been great recently. I think that's more so just because he's coming off the bench, and they don't, they just paid him a lot. They don't want to keep him getting injured, so they're trying to more so just limit his minutes a little bit. But yeah, he's going to be the kind of that heat score, that heat checker score off the bench, whatever you want to call him. But yeah, I think those price tags for them stand out the most to me. Otherwise, not a lot of interest on this Spurs side for me. They've been absolutely brutal this season. Minnesota side, I think Edwards and Towns make for solid contrarian spin up options. That's really it. Everyone else is kind of priced about right for me. Maybe you play Naz Reid, who can get a little bit more blowout run there if the game actually does blow out at 5.1K, but still pretty pricey for a guy that, if the game does stay close, not always guaranteed those minutes, very foul prone. Charlotte versus Chicago, obviously, LaMelo Ball is still out. So I think it's a very strong price tag. Terry Rozier at 8.1K does kind of seem like it's ceiling a tad, but you got to remember, no LaMelo Ball going to be the main ball handler. And as you can see, the past two games, when it's close, 40 minutes and 35, 25 shot attempts at 20. So he's going to be super aggressive. With him, it really just comes down to can he hit his shots. If he can, should be able to play off that 8.1K price tag. Bridges, kind of going to be stepping up to that main two scorer. I think he's a fine play there. Don't love the price tag for him, but we know going to play a ton of minutes and can stuff the stat sheet. Mark Williams, more so of a contrarian option who's been better recently. Hayward, probably my favorite play right now besides Rozier on this Pelicans. Hornets side, I mean, he's very up and down as you can see recently, but he does have some pretty strong upside. PJ Washington, if he comes off the bench, I actually do have interest in him because he will be aggressive off the bench. Otherwise, he would get lost in the starting five in terms of being aggressive. So I actually do like him here at 5.4K. Should be super aggressive off the bench. has had some good games, some decent games against the Bulls as well. And that's really it for me. Moving on to the Chicago side. Vooch is all the way priced up to 8.4. DeMar 8K. I think I prefer him. I think they're both very strong plays here with no Zach Levine. Obviously, Levine out. Kobe White's priced up to 6.9K. I mean, the minutes have been insane for them the past few games. I think there's been some overtime. But yeah, I mean, I think I'd rather get to DeMar and Vooch than a Kobe White there at 6.9K. Pat Williams, 5.2K, price about right for me. IO 5K, kind of the same thing. Minutes have been good, but still priced right. That's really it. Maybe some Jalen Carter or some value. Should see around 15-ish minutes, but not very aggressive offensively. That's really it for me. You could take a shot on Drummond, always, very solid and strong point per minute guy, but yeah, the minutes are just not a guarantee for him. Moving on to OKC and Houston here. For OKC, SGA 10-7. I mean, that's just always a very strong and safe play to go to him there. Chet Holmgren at 7.9K. Just kind of there for me. Jalen Williams, 6.4, probably the one that sticks out to me the most. Has good upside, is the number 2 scorer along SGA when they do have a full healthy team. And that means they own a little bit less upside for a guy like Chet, who should be back in line to the 3rd/4th aggressive, scorer. KD's all the way down to 5.9K still. Don't love the price tag for him. Um, and that's really it. Don't love too much value here for the OKC side. They kind of have their main 5, and that's really it. For Houston, Sengun's finally getting priced up to where he should be. He's been very aggressive recently, as you can see. So if you want a decently, solid spend up, he is there. Same thing for Fred VanVleet, just playing a massive amount of minutes. Upside really hasn't been there a ton, just with the minutes he's getting. He's kind of averaging like a 1 point fantasy point per minute, but still a guy that's seen 40 plus minutes who we know can get hot from 3 and get a bunch of steals. I still think that's a decent price tag for him, and a solid pivot play if you don't want to go to Terry Rozier would be Fred VanVleet. And that's going to really be it for me. Don't have much interest in anyone else besides maybe Tari Eason, who's always, decently solid off the bench there, pretty aggressive in terms of stuff in the stat sheet. So yeah, you can land on him, but don't love too much there. Moving on to Utah here versus Dallas. For the Utah side, obviously Laurie's still out, Clarkson's still out. So if you're looking for some, cheaper value, you can definitely get to kind of the main starters here for the Utah Jazz. So obviously it's going to be John Collins, Keontae George. I'd assume Walker Kessler gets brought back into the starting lineup. I think he's a strong option at 6.3K. Sexton's all the way up to 5.8, but he should see mid-20s minutes, maybe into the 30s if he's doing well. Fonte 5.7. Don't love that for a guy who's decently scoring dependent, but as you can see, the past few games he's been better in terms of the peripheral stats. Horton Tucker, even with those guys out, still not seeing a ton of minutes there, so I don't love going to him. Olenek is also out, so obviously we'll see some Yurtsev in, but as you can see, they kind of did a good job at pricing everyone. I honestly think my favorite plays right now, don't think Don seeing a ton of minutes, would be really just going to Kessler there or Sexton. And that's really it for me on the Utah side. On to Dallas here. Lucas price is finally coming down, so I don't mind taking a shot on him at 11.7K. We know the upside there with him is massive. And if Kyrie's out, I obviously really love Luka. But if Kyrie's in, I still think Luka's a strong play. Kyrie would be more so contrarian. And that would be really it for this team for me. As you can see, Lively does have some upside when he stays out of foul trouble, but it's very sporadic. He did see 39 minutes, which really hasn't seen this season so far. But yeah, that's really it. Not a ton to like here for me for this Dallas side. Obviously, Kleber and Green are out, so maybe more of an extended role for a guy like Jones, but he's priced up. Same thing, Grant Williams, but nothing too crazy there. It's really just main 2 for me. Portland, Golden State. Big news here is Simons might be back. Probably going to be on a minutes limit. If for some reason he's not, absolutely love that price tag, lock him in. But if he is, really depends. If it's going to be mid-20s, sure you can take a shot at him. But otherwise, really hurts the upside there for guys like Sharp, even Brogdon. So right now, don't love the price tag for any of these guys, besides Simons if he's going to play. But that's really it. Kamara there. Walker, fine value. Nothing too crazy here, but that Simons news kind of does hurt the upside there for the other guards. Moving on to kind of the almost last game here, but Steph Curry, great spin up play, a very good, contrarian option. That's really it for me. I think if you land on these other guys, it's fine, but nothing stands out to me. Yeah. Denver, Jokic is 12.5. Hard to get up to him right now unless we get some more value. Porter's there. Don't love the price tag. Murray should be good to go here with that ankle. He logged partial practice, but he's yet to return to full activity. Do that right ankle sprain. Obviously, if he's out, it makes Jokic more viable, and a guy like Reggie Jackson would be a decent play. But yeah, nothing too crazy here on the Denver side right now. All kind of priced about right. Don't really stands out. It's more so contrarian options, and then the Clippers side here, Paul George, Kawhi. I think are fine plays. I'd still rather get to Kawhi here, who really hasn't flashed a huge upside, even with Russ going to the bench. But I still think he comes at a very fair and strong price tag. Zubac, they're going to need his defense. So if he can stay off foul trouble, I do like taking a risky flyer on Zubac here at 5.8, a guy that usually is a decent point per minute. Otherwise, that's it. Maybe you could take a shot on Theis if you think Zubac gets foul trouble. Theis could see push for 20 plus minutes, and he's usually a decent point per minute guy. He's been a little bit better here on the Clippers. So yeah, I think that'd be a very strong play to kind of go the route that maybe Zubac gets in foul trouble, and we could look to Theis at 4.2K. But yeah, that's going to do it for the breakdown, guys. In terms of like core plays, nothing really stands out right now. Do have a decent amount of news kind of wait for in terms like the Minnesota side, Kyrie, some other guys down here like Jamal Murray, Gordon, Paul, Aiton, Poole. So good amount of information we do have to wait for. But right now, as you can see, these are kind of the guys I'm leaning towards: Duran, Claxton, Thompson, Bogdan, and Cam Thomas. And we'll kind of go from there. So stay up there with me on Patreon, hit that like button. I'll see you guys next video. Peace.